On the 14th day of Donald Trump's war of choice in Iran, the death toll for U.S. service members now stands at 13. The Pentagon confirmed that all 6 crew members of a U.S. refueling aircraft died when it crashed in Iraq yesterday, adding, quote, the circumstances of the incident are under investigation. However, the loss of the aircraft was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. It is worth noting that 13 service members were killed in the Abbey Gate attack in Afghanistan in 2021, when President Biden was executing the withdrawal deal that Donald Trump made with the Taliban. But Donald Trump relentlessly attacked his predecessor for 13 dead for the last 5 years, including, again, this past Wednesday.
Everything they did was wrong. Think of it. Afghanistan, Biden, Afghanistan, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. Embarrassing. 13 dead.
13 dead. Today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth responded to the rising death toll with, quote, bad things can happen.
War is hell. War is chaos. And as we saw yesterday with the tragic crash of our KC-135 tanker, bad things can happen.
It's an unusual way to say things, but the ex-Fox and Friends weekend host is making headlines for this truly unbelievable comment that he made today.
Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
He can't wait for the Trump-friendly billionaire David Ellison to buy a news network so he won't have to deal with tough reporting. Hegseth apparently thinks press coverage should be like the meme videos that the White House has been pumping out. Hegseth clearly doesn't understand that it is his duty to answer questions from the press and that Americans deserve truthful and full answers about a war being waged in their name, a war that has cost American lives. And, of course, Hegseth also appears to have been lying. The CNN report, which has since been confirmed by MS Now, cited multiple officials with knowledge of the Pentagon and National Security Council's planning of the military operation in Iraq, which underestimated Iran's willingness to close the strait as a retaliation for U.S. military action, according to the sources. The warnings were there. The Trump administration just chose to ignore them in what has turned out to be a brazenly stupid mistake. Global energy prices have skyrocketed as Iran has closed off the Strait of Hormuz. A New York Times analysis finds at least 16 oil tankers, cargo, and other commercial ships have been attacked in the Persian Gulf since the war began. That includes 6 in just 2 days. Trump's energy secretary just said yesterday that the U.S. Navy is not ready to try to escort oil tankers through the strait, despite false claims that it already had this week. Still, Pete Hegseth said this.
They are exercising sheer desperation in the Straits of Hormuz. Something we're dealing with, we have been dealing with it, and don't need to worry about it.
Don't need to worry about it. Did he just tell the American people not to worry about gas prices rising to $3.63 per gallon on average, nearly 22% higher than they were 2 weeks ago? The New York Times reports, quote, the world's benchmark for oil finished the day above $103 a barrel. That is up more than 40% since the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran began almost 2 weeks ago. And now, Donald Trump is helping out his old pal Vladimir Putin by temporarily lifting sanctions on Russian oil because of its invasion in Ukraine. The Washington Post reports the move is going to provide a huge financial boost to Russia, which experts say has already been receiving about $150 million per day from increased oil sales since the U.S. attacked Iran 2 weeks ago. The former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, tells us another way that Vladimir Putin benefits from Donald Trump's war of choice.
Before, in 2022, the United States and the free world had the moral high ground in denouncing Putin's invasion of Ukraine as illegitimate, unprovoked, and the rest of the world rallied behind that cause. Now that Trump has launched his own illegal war that was not preempted by an imminent threat to the United States, we lose that moral high ground. It looks like we're just like them. Now, I personally don't believe that. Putin runs a brutal dictatorship, attacking a democracy in Ukraine. We have gone to war against a brutal dictatorship that has threatened American lives, killed Americans, and other people in the region. But I'm not sure I could win that argument in Delhi or Johannesburg or Jakarta, because that's not the right way the rest of the world sees us. And that makes Putin's war look more legitimate than it should be. And this is another unintended negative consequence of this war for us, but it's a positive for Vladimir Putin.
Pete Hegseth dodged questions about preliminary reports this week by the Pentagon that determined that the U.S. was responsible for a strike on the Iranian girls' school that killed 175 people, mostly children, perhaps due to outdated targeting information. But Pete Hegseth had no qualms about saying this.
And we know they know that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemy.
Democratic Congressman Eugene Vindman, our first guest tonight, posted this in response, saying, quote, former Army JAG here, no quarter orders are a violation of the law of war and Geneva Conventions. This is the same order reportedly given during the Caribbean boat strikes. Secretary Hegseth is establishing a pattern of issuing illegal orders. I've trained hundreds of soldiers on the law of war. Our service members have an obligation to follow that law. The New York Times reports, quote, about 2,500 Marines aboard as many as 3 warships are headed to the Middle East from the Indo-Pacific region as Iran increases its attacks on the Strait of Hormuz, 2 officials said. The Marines will join more than 50,000 American troops in the region. It was unclear how the new deployment would be used. In more proof that Donald Trump has no idea what he's doing with this war in Iran or how or when to get out of it, Axios reports, quote, President Trump told G7 leaders in a virtual meeting Wednesday that Iran is, quote, about to surrender, end quote, according to 3 officials from G7 countries briefed on the contents of the call. 24 hours later, Iran's new supreme leader issued his first public statement vowing to keep fighting. So today, Donald Trump said this.
I don't think it's going to be long. When it's over, this is going to bounce right back so fast.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones.
When I feel it in my bones. Tell that to the families of the now 13 dead U.S. service members in just the first 2 weeks of a war that Donald Trump claims will end when he feels it in his bones. Tell it to the families whose loved ones are in harm's way tonight. Just wait for the commander-in-chief, who avoided military service because of alleged bone spurs, to feel the end of this war in his bones. The New York Times reports, quote, inside the administration, some officials are growing pessimistic about the lack of a clear strategy to finish the war, but they've been careful not to express that directly to the president, who's repeatedly declared that the military operation is a complete success. But that lack of a clear strategy to finish the war did not stop the Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson from falling right in line.
The president has said in the last, 12 hours that he expects the operation in Iran to come to a close soon. The mission is virtually accomplished now, as it was defined, and I think that'll happen.
The mission is virtually accomplished now, as it was defined. The stated goals for this war of choice have changed countless times, as has the number of times Donald Trump has said Iran is decimated, or there's nothing left to target, and it should end soon, yet he needs unconditional surrender. Or today, when he said it's over, or that it'll be over when he feels it in his bones. This is not a war with a goal. And Republicans are just telling Donald Trump what he wants to hear, but that grows more dangerous by the day, considering both the human toll and the economic toll.